Don't worry about the background. We ain't
I,
judging.
I want the background to be different. I'm tired of looking at it. Okay, anyways, the recording started. So first thing you're gonna need is IntelliJ IDEA. It is free 99. Pretty easy to get there. Just do it over here, in case something weird comes up. You literally just type in right, just like it's right up here, IntelliJ, and then afterwards you get right here to JetBrains. Boom. And then you scroll down. Don't use this professional one because that's cost money. But you go down and you look for. Should be a community one. Somewhere around here. Somewhere around here. Just look around. There should be a community one. Download it. After you get officially put in S4 via Sullivan, you'll be able to open up JetBrains and it'll look like this. Easy
What the
peasy.
fuck is that?
So this is the basic page. You have all of the different folders for all of our different factions, all of our different code. Literally everything is right here on the screen. Um, for instance, if you want to code armor, here it is. You just go to 105th armor. You want to code Kale's vest. You go to Bravo company, data, armor, and then I don't know if Kale. Yep, there it is. Kale. This is all Kale stuff right here. So this is kind of like the main hub where you go to do any sort of coding. Another thing that's really helpful is you're going to want to have ARMA 3 tools, which is a thing that comes with Steam.
It should automatically be installed when you install ARMA, I'm pretty sure.
It was not for me. But ARMA 3 tools comes with Steam. Does Steam decide to... There it is. Right here. Right here. Let me actually turn down the music. It is a little bit loud. There. So yeah, Armor 3 tools, once it's running, it'll look like this. We use it to convert .bin files to actual readable files. Pretty much all that means is in a portion of the coding part, I'm going to have to open a .bin file to find all of the base code that I need. A lot of big words, not really that big of a deal. I'll go one by one with you, pretty much. The last program you're going to need is, what is it? PBO Packer? PBO Manager. PBO Manager is the last program you're going to need. I'm going to go ahead and link it in the chat so you guys can have it. And this is how you... Oh, that's one. This is how you send the files to the code. Or to the server, sorry. So here you have just basic files, right? If I open these guys up in Explorer, they're just very, very basic. They're just folders. Pretty much all it is these types of things. Nothing too hard there. But in order for the server to read them, let me get to it. In order for the server to read them, they need to be in a .pbo. So this is the 105th utility pack. These are pretty much the only difference between these files and these files is that these ones are put into PBOs. That's how the server is able to read them. So you'll need PBO Manager to be able to open up these as well as turn these into these. So here is the link to it. Second. Upload a file. PBO Manager. Boom. So it's in the chat. It's in this specific VC's chat. So it's just hover over the VC. Start here. Right here. Just open up the chat.
Okay.
Right there. Download that because you're going to need it. So first things first, we're going to open up ARMA and somebody... Well, I'm not going to say somebody, but I'm going to show you the gun that we're going to be coding. This is not going to be a permanent gun. This is literally only for this demonstration so that you guys can see start to scratch from beginning to end how code gets put in, or how a gun gets put into the mod pack.
Okay.
for putting specifically weapons in the mod pack, do make sure you check in with the weapons warrant, who does happen to be me, or any other member of C staff or S4, preferably somebody in S4, because adding in a gun without prior knowledge can get people in trouble and has gotten people in trouble in the past. So just make sure that C staff or S4 agrees with what you're doing. Even if it's like little changes, like the small changes, like, oh, this is broken, oh, this needs to be upped a little bit, it's not that big of a deal. But if you're like reworking a gun, like big projects, make sure C staff knows, because they might have a specific direction they want to bring it, or they might have a larger overall project that they're roping that into, stuff like that. So just be careful of what you start coding before you actually start. So a big portion of the time it takes to do coding is waiting for ARMA to open, because ARMA blows. It's horrible. It takes forever to open, and you need to check ARMA like 4 or 5 times throughout the process. It just sucks. Actually, I do need to cancel this, which is another big problem that happens all the time. Sometimes errors pop up or whatever.
Are you playing off an SSD?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it takes forever to open for me. So, I totally forgot. There is a very important optional mod that you should get. It's called Advanced Developer Tools. This guy right here. It is very helpful when trying to figure out what the actual code is, and like what pretty much it allows you in game to open up the config of a weapon, which is really, really nice. It saves a lot of time. So it's also there in the chat. When you, in the future, when you decide to code a gun, and you mess up so badly that you just want to wipe fresh, just go straight back to the beginning, wipe it all, bring it back to the beginning. So the way to do that, there's actually 2 separate parts, because there's one to wipe it in ARMA, and there's one to wipe it in IDEA. I'll show you how to wipe it in IDEA at the end. To wipe it in ARMA, all you do is you repair the folder. You repair the mod pack. So majority of the time, if you're going to be working weapons, it's going to be the utility pack. If you go ahead and just repair it, it's going to send it back to whatever the most recent update of that mod pack is, which should be a working version of that mod pack. For instance, this should say updated. It doesn't, but it should. And that'll allow you to get a working state of the game to go off of. Because sometimes, I know it's happened to me, it's happened to some other people, I've broken the game so badly that I can't get the game to start no matter what I try, so I have to wipe it all fresh and restart. Happens sometimes, especially if you're coding pretty big endeavors. Most recent time it happened to me was when the spankers broke, and I was trying to make my own version of the spankers. I had to wipe it a few times because I just messed up in the coding so badly that there wasn't anything I could physically do to fix it. So stuff like that happens. Don't worry about it. If it happens to you, it's not that big of a deal. While we wait for that to open, I'll show you around IntelliJ a little bit more. So in IntelliJ, there's this really handy terminal at the bottom. This holds every single push. It's called a push, but every time somebody adds something to the mod pack or takes something, pretty much anytime someone interacts with the mod pack, it has it here. Everything from the very beginning of when the mod pack first started to the post I made today adding in a marksman without thermal. Every single post, everything you do is here. And if you want to look something up, if you want to say, you want to look up what, when the BR55 was added. So you just go BR55, but that's when the BR55 was added. It's very simple to search things up, figure out, okay, something broke here, how'd it break? Because, say, fixed UGL for BR55X. Say it's still not working. Well, I can click on the battle rifle HPP right here, and it'll show me physically what was changed. So, right here, obviously, they changed this 1 to a 2. That's all that was changed. It'll highlight everything that was changed. So that is how we kind of navigate the Git, figure out who's done what, stuff like that. Hi, Zeke. Yes, this is the coding course. So to catch Zeke up on what we've done, I've kind of just been showing them around IntelliJ while I'm waiting for ARMA to open. IntelliJ is our modding, what we use to interact with modding. It looks like this. This is kind of like the basic view. This is inside one of these folders. And then go ahead and look in the chat. I have two things for you to download, PBO Manager and Advanced Developer Tools. Those two combined with IntelliJ give you pretty much everything you need to code. Now that we're in ARMA, the easiest way to start coding is to go to the ACE arsenal and pick a gun from there. We're going to be coding the M60 carbine. It's a little pistol PDW carbine that was added by Optray. So, I'm going to show you a few things in the arsenal when it actually loads. Perfect. So, as you can see, if I type in M60, ignore that. That was a previous version. This is the one I coded, for example. So, this is the M60 carbine. If you look right below, right where my cursor is, it shows the M60 carbine, but it also shows a line below it. That's actually the class name, which is really important that we can easily get that because we're able to use it to look it up. So Optray M16 Carbine F. So if I go to Config Viewer, which is just escape, and click on Config, it brings up this menu. This allows us to look at any sort of code in the game. So if I go ahead and look for the config weapon, if I look for the config weapon file, and then I gotta type in a W for weapons. Apologies. So right here.
Start an armor.
No worries. Right here. Config weapons. So here's the config weapons. Every single weapon that we use, pretty much any weapon that's in the arsenal is gonna be in here. So if we type in the class name that we saw above the M60, which was Optray underscore M6, oh, that's not 6D, that'll bring us to the basic M60, but also all the carbines. So you have carbine base F, which is the base. Whenever you see a base, don't use it because it is very bare bones. It doesn't have any of like the heat effects. It's just a very bare bones version of the rifle. If you can, always try to find the base version of it. I'll show you in Optray's code itself where to find that, so don't really worry about it.
Are the base weapons the ones used by like AI and such? So they don't have to worry about.
So how did you open?
So this is with Config Viewer. If you have any questions, just let me know. I'll stop and help you figure it out. So this is in Arsenal. This is in the virtual Arsenal. It's the it's right. It's at the top of your screen. There should be a drop down, and then you click on Ace Arsenal. That brings you to the Arsenal, which will look like this. From there, you just try it, and then press Escape, and you hit this Config button down below, right here. So with Advanced Developer Tools, it pulls up this. Without it, it pulls up a lesser version, but same general purpose. So right here is all of the code that has anything to do, or all the code that this carbine uses. You can see literally everything. Specifically, if I copy this and put it here, I can also do a drop down and I can figure out all of the smaller code in it. So I can figure out like, oh, it can equip a flashlight. This is what it means when it equips a flashlight. This is all the code it uses when it equips a flashlight. Stuff like that. So it's just very good for trying to figure out what all of this means. Easy.
So I'm not getting when I pull up here.
No worries.
Share my screen real quick.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not getting.
Yes. So you're not getting that because you don't have. So type in config. So click on that config file right there, where it says config file. Click on that. Open it up. Now type in config or CFGW. That's it. I get rid of the rest of the 105th stuff. That'll bring you to config weapons. So click on config weapons now, all the way at the bottom. Not the bottom, but it's like 5 down.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. Yeah. So open that up. Now search the thing. Be careful. It is not V105th because we don't have a 105th version. This is the Optre version we're looking for.
Yeah,
So this is we're talking about the carbine. The carbine.
Yeah, I know. That's not what I'm working on.
Oh, okay. My bad. You got me there. So this is how you kind of find the code. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, one thing. I was gonna ask, you said previously do not use the base model of any gun, but then you said to click on the base model.
So there's it's a little weird. So this is the carbine F. So the actual name is Optre M6D Carbine F. If you scroll up, there's actually something called a Optre MXD Carbine Base F. So these two have different codes. I'll show you more in depth in a second, but this is one way to get kind of all the code in that a weapon has. I'm going to show you a different way. So the other way to get the code, which is what I initially did, doesn't actually use ARMA at all. It is a little bit more like trial and error, though, because you need to know what folder the code specifically is in. So we will go ahead and look at that. Wait for ARMA to close. Okay. So to find the actual source code of the carbine that we're going to do, we know it's going to be an Optre. So if we go and type in Optre, Operation Trebuchet, right here. So I just open up the drop-down, click on the 3 little dots, and open folder in Windows Explorer. So that'll bring me to here. I go ahead and open up the folder that it says. I open up add-ons, and these are all the PBOs. So just like how we have our own PBOs that house all of our own code, Optre has all of its own PBOs. And this is what you use PBO Manager for majority of the time, is going into the actual code in Optre. So the carbine's going to be in Optre Weapons Pistols.pbo. So if I go ahead and double click it, it uses PBO Manager to open it up. So this is the view of the carbine or the pistols folder of Optre. So right here you can see M60 carbine. I don't like the way they've structured it because it's actually a little bit misleading. Because for some reason it's here. So if you scroll down, you can see. Let me see. Is it actually here? No, it's in the bin. Right. Okay. So config.bin. It is on the outside of all the folders, and it houses everything that's in the folders. It's just, all it is it's like an initiator saying, hey, look in all these folders and get the code out of all these folders. That's all the config.bin file does. But it does have to list everything that's in those folders. That's very helpful for us. So this is where we bring ARMA 3 tools. So have this open. What you do is you right-click on the config.bin and extract it. Doesn't really matter where, as long as you know where it's extracted to. For me, I always extract it to my desktop, so it's easy to find. So when we get here, after you've extracted the config.bin file, you can open it up using config convert. Hello, Higgins. This
whatever numbers is telling you to do, it's a lie. Don't do it.
Yeah.
He's leading you astray.
Yeah. Anyways,
I'm not gonna lie, I'm already lost.
no. How can I help, Zeke? How can I help? Is there
It's too late.
No? Okay. Well, this is all being recorded. Like, I don't know if you were there. So if you want to go back and try to figure it out, let me know. Or if you want some help, I'm always available to help.
All right.
So let me go back to ARMA 3 tools. Okay, here's ARMA 3 tools. Here's config.bin. You use config convert, and that'll bring up this little window. So source, you go ahead and click browse, and I already have it because I was doing some coding with it earlier. But for me, I always put it on my desktop, and then actually I could just use this one. config.bin. So this is the bin folder. All this is it's this folder right here put on my desktop instead of in the ARMA folders. So if you open it, and then it'll automatically do this part. This is the destination. It's going to put it in the exact same folder, but as a CCP, which is helpful. It's not going to do like a little loading animation. You just click it once, and then it's going to work. It's a little hard to tell sometimes. But now I can actually go to my desktop and open it up. See, right here, config.ccp. So what we did there was convert this .bin file into a .ccp file, because computers can't read a .bin file. At least my notepad can't. It ends up like this, which is a whole bunch of ugliness. I can't understand what any of this means. In a CCP file, though, it looks like this. Nice, easy to tell what's going on. So this is another way to get the code.
Notepad++ can read bin files properly?
I haven't had any luck with Notepad++. I haven't been able to read a bin file. So in these folders, what I tend to do is I Control F to find what I'm looking for. So if I look up carbine, here it is. So this is actually not what we're looking for, because this is a mag for the carbine. So let's just keep going. This is the drum mag, magazine wells. Okay, so it looks like it doesn't house it, which is kind of annoying. Hold on. One weird thing about notes is if you don't start at the top, sometimes searching doesn't work. So always just make sure you click on the top before you start the search, or vice versa. Okay, so it isn't actually housed in here, which is fine. Again, like I said, this is more of a trial and error. You just kind of got to open up these folders until you find the right folder. So let's look in here. Right here. So here's another config.bin file. Same process as it was before. You download it to your desktop, you open up ARMA 3 tools, convert it over to a CCP so you can read it, and that should give you this. Give me a second. Open. So that should give you this. So same thing. This was on my desktop. It's just this. I just double click, open up M60 carbine. I already converted it, so I'm not going to convert it again. But it's same process as I just showed you, where you convert the .bin to a .ccp. You do it again. This time it's going to be in a folder. But this is the carbine folder files. So this holds everything that a carbine folder is from the very base of ARMA. This right here is the base rifle, the short rifle class of ARMA. Any weapon in ARMA that is a short rifle comes from this class. And then it gets converted into a PDW. And that PDW further gets converted into a M60 carbine. And then that M60 carbine finally gets converted into the usable weapon that we use, that can be used, the M60 carbine F. So this, Etheric, to answer your question, this is what I was referring to when saying don't use this specific, or don't use base classes. So this is the base class, and this is the first usable class. And then there's all these variants that pretty much only have like different foregrips and different camos, stuff like that. So there's a small difference, but it is kind of important because sometimes some of this code isn't done in the base class. And a good amount of the time, it breaks it. Like, for instance, the longsword. It's currently broken because I pulled it incorrectly from the base class. So just be careful of how you use it and how it kind of gets pulled. So we'll go ahead and start coding this into our mod pack. So you take this class. This is kind of the only part you really need from this. We did all of that searching just to find this single line of code. This is the only thing you're going to use from this majority of the time. Again, I say majority of the time because sometimes it can be different. So, carbine, we'll start with that. This is where you're going to code the actual gun. So to find this, we're going to be in IntelliJ, and you go all the way down to 105th weapons, and you're going to find this config file right here. My apologies. You're going to find this weapons file right here. And this has all of the different weapons sectioned into different folders. So since we're doing carbine, we go ahead and open up the carbine HPP. That brings up this. The only other carbine we have in the unit right now is the M37K, which is majority a pilot weapon. We're going to be adding another one. For this class again, we're not actually adding this weapon. So the first thing we're adding is this class. So of course it's always, whatever you can copy and paste is always good. Anything you can copy and paste saves you from typing it down. So this line of code right here, all this really does is get this class to read and know that this class exists. Without this, the carbine HPP wouldn't know what you're going to be pulling from. And what I mean by that is this. So we're going to start it with V105, which is what we start every 105th class with because Luke decided that. Don't ask me. We're going to name it the M6D, actually capitalize that, PDW. And then we're going to add this little line of code right here that says this M6D PDW is going to take all of the code from this class right here. So the class on the left takes all of the code from the class on the right, and then any code you want to add, you can add down here. If you don't want to add code, you don't have to add code. But any code that you want to add, you add here. Without this, say this wasn't here, the carbine HPP wouldn't know what code this is. They wouldn't know what code from here to add to here. They would have no idea. So this is all this line does is lets the carbine HPP read this line of code and put it here. Simple, easy. One thing that I always do is I just copy this top block here. This is always going to be the same. If there's some things to change, it's only a few lines here and there. To copy this block, all you do is you get rid of the magazines. I'll go over that in a minute. DLC. So this just sets it in the 105th portion of the arsenal. So when you open up the arsenal, you have all the 105th guns at the top. That's because of this line of code right here. It sets all of the guns that are in this folder as a 105th DLC and puts it right at the top. Author, I'll just go ahead and put my name. And then display name. So this is actually what it's going to say in the arsenal. It's going to say the M60 PDW. So when it's in these quotation marks, you don't need to put the underscore. If it's outside of a quotation mark, you will need to put the underscore for spaces to indicate that. Because once it reads a space, it thinks that the file is ended. It'll just break things majority of the time. So just be careful with your spaces. Make sure it's always in a quotation if you're doing it in a quotation.
So question.
What's up?
I'm going to share my screen again.
Mm-hmm.
There we go.
Check it out.
Okay. If so, this M60 is inheriting from the M60 above.
Yes.
Which this has the DLC line, the author line, all that good stuff. This does not. So if that's not specified, does that mean it continues to inherit that information?
Yes,
But
exactly.
if you do specify, then it will replace the information?
Exactly. So with the DLC thing, pretty much those first few lines of code all the way up to base weapon. No, not base weapon, actually. The DLC and the author are all going to be the same. Whatever it pulls from the M6C class, unless it's overwritten specifically in the M6D class, it'll be the exact same thing. That's really helpful to shave down lines of code because we want to use as little lines of code while still giving quality work so that the mod pack is as small as possible while still being correct and well. So Luke didn't put the DLC there. If he were to put the DLC there, for instance, right here, you're going to put the author. So you would put S4 logistics and then in parentheses your name. This overrides that line of code up there and just says, hey, instead of Luke being the author, Kale's the author. That's all it really means. And to give this line of code weight, if you actually click on a gun, you can see who made the gun in the bottom right of the arsenal. So when you open up the arsenal and click on a gun, in the bottom right, it'll show you who made the gun. So that's what that line of code does physically, is it allows you to have that. That's what it means in the arsenal, pretty much. So back to what I was saying. Okay, so we're going to get rid of this overheating barrel mass because that's more for balancing, and we don't really need to do that right now. I just want to show you guys how the basics of getting the gun in. Once we get to balancing in the future, if any of you guys added a weapon, I can sit down with you, teach you how to balance a weapon well enough. So, this base weapon, I'm going to be honest, I don't really know what it does. I know what happens if you don't do it right. If you don't have this code right, it just won't show the gun in the arsenal. All you really do for this base weapon is you just copy the class name and you put it right here in base weapon. You just copy and paste it right here. I don't know why that's what it is, but that's what it is. Magazines. Okay. So this is where majority of the coding happens in the gun. All of like the hit values, all of the penetration, all the damage, and if you're using narcs, all of like how fast a narc puts somebody down. It all comes from the code in the actual bullet. None of it comes from the carbine, the code here in the carbine. All this is meant to do is say, what mags you can put on the carbine, for this instance the carbine, or what mags you can put on the gun, and what attachments you can put on the gun. That's all this is going to take care of. Everything else is done in either the ammo or the magazine class. So I'm going to go grab a water. If anybody has any questions, go ahead and let me know. But
Why
I will be
do
right back. Oh, good.
increase the muzzle velocity of certain rounds?
What do you mean? You kind of cut out.
Different weapons have different muzzle velocity, even though they use the same magazines.
Because that is one of the things that is actually in here. I don't know if I can find it. I probably can.
Does the velocity actually affect the damage, or is it just
that is a
hit?
That is a very complicated thing that I have shared with Kale. It is very complicated. I will bring it up to show you, but let me go grab a water really quickly because my throat is already hurting.
So, are y'all also taking notes, or is everyone just kind of following along as well? Because I didn't
was
get the
lost
time to
20
download
minutes
everything.
ago, so
I'm
Yeah, I
following
don't have time to
practically, but
download.
we're just now
Yeah.
getting to the part that I don't know how to do. So,
Halfway.
I don't even know how to get here. I've already been lost.
so
Yeah.
if you don't have access to the 105th like
Yeah.
GitHub, you're not actually physically going to be able to pull this information up.
Yeah, so this is specifically this is geared towards people already in S4. But if anybody is interested in learning how weapons do get coded or want to join S4, this is why it's public. It is for people to learn how it kind of gets done. Again, if you want to be an S4 Zeke, let me know. I'll sit down with you at a later date and teach you all this stuff one by one.
All right.
Okay. So, oh, right. I was going to show Zeke actually how the damage gets calculated. Let me figure it out. The fuck is it at, Gale?
What?
Did I not send you the photo
What photo?
of how the damage gets calculated?
No.
I didn't send you the photo. I thought I did. Shit.
Is it just something risingly complex for no reason?
Yes, it's actually
so-
it is very realistic. I remember what it is. So it takes the velocity, which is this. Where is it? Indirect hit. Right. So it takes this, right? This is how fast the bullet is going. This is actually how fast the bullet needs to go to do the full amount of damage that it's saying. So to do 800 damage for this rocket, actually, let's go to a better, because I don't want to do it off the rocket.
So if a bullet's going faster than that, it doesn't make a difference.
It doesn't. If it's at least going 340, it will do the full 55 damage. Caliber is equate caliber to penetration. So caliber of 1 is your basic 7.62 NATO round or 7.62 round from ARMA. Anything above that, pretty much what it means is the more things it penetrates, the less actual speed it loses. So there's two different variables. There's an int speed, and then there's a typical speed. From what I understand, at least from going into all the code, typical speed is how fast the bullet needs to go to do the full amount of damage, while int speed is the actual speed that it comes out of the barrel at. So every second that it's out of a barrel, there is something called an air friction coefficient variable, in which it slows down the bullet. There's an air friction variable. It slows down a bullet by this amount every second that it's in the air. So the longer it's in the air, the less damage it will do, just because of this friction, this friction value. So, based
So
off
is that
of
the reason a lot of the HMGs are at the whole damage a lot better than
Yes,
regular
yes.
rifles?
Yes, because of the fact that it comes out of the barrel so much quicker, or this int speed variable is so much higher, while this typical speed is so much lower. So if you have, say, the int speed is 800, so the bullet's coming out of the barrel at 800 meters per second, which is kind of slow, I think. I don't know. I don't really know how real guns work.
800 meters a second.
That's very fast.
That's slow.
Oh, that's
not
slow? Okay.
extremely fast, but
Okay. So say the bullet's
it's
coming
kind of
out at
brilliant.
say the bullet's coming out at 800 meters a second, and the bullet needs to go 200 meters a second for it to do the full amount of damage. Well, from 800 to 600, it does the full amount of damage no matter where it hits. So say the dude's 100 feet away. From 800 meters per second to 600 meters per second, or from 800 meters a second to 200 meters a second, apologies, it will do the same amount of damage. Every second after that 200 meters a second that it slows, it does less and less and less and less damage until you get the final value of, instead of doing 50 damage, it does like 10 damage because it was only going 80 meters per second. That's kind of how the damage value works in ARMA, which is why it's so hard to get a precise value of a gun, because it all changes on, because each map also has its friction. Each map changes its friction.
The air temp, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Each map changes how the gun works, which is really annoying when it comes to balancing weapons and making them all feel rewarding to use. A caveat, pretty much to show you how, like, this can kind of mess you up sometimes. I love broadsword, but
Yeah, the higher temp maps are gonna give you more range.
oh, it doesn't have it in here, right? Because we reset it. Anyways, when broads,
Still really,
yeah, it's
still really counterintuitive that the higher the temp, the actual less drag it has.
yeah, it's weird. Anyways, when broadsword first added his 30-06, his rampart, he made the damage like 600. It was able to like one-shot scorpions and stuff like that because he didn't fully understand how the coding of the gun worked. So I sat down with him, I showed him how it all worked, and then I fixed it for him. So when you do make ammo, it's very important that you either know exactly what the typical value does, or if you don't exactly know how much damage it's going to do, you test it. You do testing after testing after testing after testing to make sure that it all looks correct. It all feels right to use. It doesn't one-shot people at 6 kilometers out if it's not meant to one-shot people at 6 kilometers out. Make sure
So,
you...
that's
Go ahead.
the M6Ds, you're gonna set it up to where they do a lot of damage in close quarters.
Yes. So
junk.
that is the idea. It should be about a 1 to 2 shot within 10 meters. Afterwards, the drop-off gets heavy. That's kind of the idea. Again, I'm not coding this specifically right now. This is kind of just like a test to show you guys all how it works.
So, just to
What's-
go over the variables one more time.
Yep.
Hit is our actual damage value.
Yes.
Typical speed is the speed that a bullet needs to be traveling. in order to deal maximum damage.
Yes.
Initial speed or init speed is how fast it's leaving the
Barrel. Yeah.
it's leaving the barrel. What is caliber again?
Caliber is the amount of
Penetration?
penetration. So the higher the caliber, the less speed it's going to use when going through things like wood or even armor. So this is how we make like an armor-piercing round: is we increase the caliber while decreasing the hit. Because if you only increase the caliber, you're just going to have a better round in total, right? Because if you increase the caliber while keeping the hit the same, why wouldn't you ever use that against unarmed people? There's no point in not using it. If, for instance, this JHP round, it should be good against people without armor. It should be good against like rebel militia, people who don't really have a lot of like Kevlar or plates or whatever, ideally. So the caliber, pretty much right when it makes contact with them, it should be doing as much damage as possible. While if it was an AP round, if it was kind of if it was a person without armor, it should do less damage, theoretically. This is like for balancing reasons. I don't really know how the bullet would work in real life, but I would assume it would be similar because of overpenetration. So it should do less damage if the person doesn't have armor. But if they do have armor, because of the caliber, they lose less speed, which correlates to doing more damage if they do have armor. So this is how you make things like armor-piercing rounds for Covenant. Covenant have a lot of armor, so if you make a high caliber round with lower damage, even if the damage was only 15, you would lose more damage if you used a JHP round because of how much speed you lose when going through the armor. Sorry if that was a little bit confusing. This is kind of like the most confusing part out of the entire the entire coding is trying to get the damage route. Right.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah, because I always wondered why fucking JHP rounds are used for Covenant. Now I fucking finally understand that. So.
Yeah.
Next question then.
Hi.
What is mass and time to live?
So mass is how much the bullet weighs. So
Does that affect the drift of the bullet?
No, all that affects is the bullet weight when you carry it.
Oh.
That's all that affects. That's all that means.
That's saddening.
Yeah. So that's how we get, if people don't adjust the mass, that's how you get people carrying 80 rounds of 40, or 40 mags worth of 7.62. You said time to live? Time to live. Time to live.
Time to life. That's, yeah, sorry.
So that is used specifically for explosive rounds and explosive munition. That's how long it needs to be in the air in order for the explosive to actually charge. And like after that amount of time, once it hits something, it'll explode. So that's how you make, like if, for instance, if a whistler had no time to live, you can shoot it at your feet and it'll explode. Right now, I believe they do have a time to live. So if you shoot it at your feet, it'll just hit the ground and it'll make that whistling noise, even if it didn't explode.
I'm looking at our SS rounds.
Yeah.
For the what I'm assuming is the SRS.
Yeah. So.
And that has a time to live.
Yeah. So I don't know why those have a time to live. I would have to get with whoever coded it or change it.
I mean, that's what they're supposed to do in law. Or they're supposed to be explosive rounds.
Okay.
Yeah.
SS?
Do they?
But I don't remember them having a time to live.
So what it's supposed to be is an APF SES.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So fun fact: SS subsonic and specifically subsonic don't work. The AI doesn't recognize if the bullets are going slower, so it makes no difference if you use a subsonic versus an JHP. Which is why, when we do the rep and we balance, we're getting rid of every subsonic round. Because there's no reason to use it, and it just doesn't work in general with the AI. At least for my testing. It might change something, but I've done like hours of testing, and they've all reacted the same.
It changes to how they react where you are.
I have not seen that. I've gone on like 4 different maps and done the exact same thing, and they all figured it out at pretty much the same amount of time. I mean, I haven't been able to
where you were, or figure
Yeah.
out they were being shot at.
No, figure out where I was.
Then, yeah,
Because if you look at SS rounds, the only thing that changes is how fast the bullet needs to go for it to do damage. There's no coding behind it that will like dampen the noise of it. There's nothing like that. Because this just comes from a normal round. This just comes from a ball round is the base round for all optre weapons. It just comes
It's
from
only
a
make a difference on players, correct?
it doesn't even make a difference on players.
It still plays the crack sound when you shoot.
Yeah.
Him, or-
Yeah, because this is the code for it. This right here is the code for it. This is all that's changed for the SS round. It literally does less damage, but you need to go the typical speed is lower
You don't need to go as fast, yeah.
to do that damage. Yeah. That's the only thing that changes in the SS round. There's no set of code behind it that decreases the noise around it, takes away the crack when you shoot next to somebody. Nothing like that. It's literally just a worse round, which is why we're getting rid of it. So, we're going to be coding in. I know that was, a little bit long sidetrack thing, but I want to make sure everybody understands what we're going to be doing. Before I start coding in the weapons, I want to get into this tracer time. So to make a tracer round, it's really, really simple. All you do is there's a variable called tracers every and then equal sign. So let's look for it. I can just do tracer. And scroll up. Should be in one of these.
Misspelled somewhere.
What is it called? It should be here somewhere. I'll show it to you later. But to make a tracer round, there's a variable called tracer every and then equal sign or something similar to that. And all that means is there's an int at the end of it. It's really similar to this. So it's tracer every and then there's a number that you put. So if say you put 2, every 2 bullets, there's going to be a tracer. That's simple. If you want to make the entire mag a tracer, you do every 1. If you want to make every 5 bullets tracer every 5. There's also a variable called tracer last or something similar where you can set how many bullets in the mag until you start seeing tracers. For like when you have tracers at the end of the mag to signify when you're going to be empty, there's a variable for that. That's what it is. You just type it. You put right here where how many bullets you want the tracers to start showing up at. Boom. Simple, easy.
I gotta go for a minute.
No worries. So now we're going to start working on the code for this carbine. So we're going to be adding 2 mags. We're going to be adding a 40-round drum mag and a 26-round big stick mag for this Magnum PDW. Yeah, it's a lot. So here I am. I'm back over in the config.ccp files from this PBO right here. This PBO houses the rest of the stuff that we need. Specifically, the config... Wait. Oh, this does have stuff. Perfect. So this is all of the basic M60 rounds that we use. This is the core optre stuff before we start doing any sort of coding. So as you can see, they also use things like, here we go, last round's tracer. Last 2 rounds is going to be tracer. Tracers every. So this isn't a tracer round, so tracers every 0. Simple. This is how you get all of the things, like all of the variables. If you don't use that advanced developer tools that I showed you in the beginning, this is how you would have to do it. So let's scroll down. Let's find the 26-round mags. Here we go. So these are the big stick mags. These have their own model, and they have their own hidden selections. So just like what we did to get the carbine, we copy the class name, because that's all we really are going to need, and we put it here. So we go to magazines. We'll go to magazines first. Go ahead. So in the magazine section, everything is kind of sectioned off. So you have the Cricket stuff. You have all of the Magnum magazines, all of the SRS magazines, just go ahead and find the section that you're coding. Say you're adding a new MA5C mag. That's going to be all the way at the top. Just find the section to make sure it all looks nice and neat, because Luke did a lot of coding to make sure this all looks nice. So just like we did with the carbine, we have to add this first line of code so the magazines class knows what it's looking for when we pull it. Afterwards, all we do is we add the class in here, and we just do V105 underscore 26 round underscore stick. That's not usual stick. There you go. That's pretty much all you really need to do to get the class set up. Afterwards, we can start adding in the code. So these are kind of the more important things right here. So this is where you would dignify tracers every. This is kind of where everything is. Your scope arsenal, that doesn't really matter. I'll put it anyways, but it doesn't really matter. So because we're using a different, we're not actually pulling from this magazine, we will have to add the DLC stuff. We will have to add DLC, the author, the scope, and the scope arsenal. All of this stuff here means that you don't really need it, but scope is what team it is. So there's Blue 4, Op 4, Independent Civilian. And the scope says which team it is in Zeus. Specifically when you use Zeus, but it also helps when in the arsenal. I've only ever found that it changes stuff in Zeus, but I haven't really tested to figure out what the scope does in the arsenal. Ammo. So this is how you get what ammo is going to be actually in the gun. So right now, this 26 round stick is going to be, it's going to be full of narc rounds, which is insane. 26 rounds of narc, that's a lot, especially in this full auto PDW. So how we change that is we go to the ammo, and because we're using a M60 PDW, we don't even need to change the ammo. We can just use straight ammo from here. So we're going to use this AP ammo right here, and we're just going to replace it. So now, instead of using the narc tracer rounds for the Magnum, it's going to be using the AP tracer rounds for the Magnum. Easy. Nothing too hard about that. There are some display stuff that you do have to do, so I'm going to copy this over and put it down here. This, again, just correlates to the arsenal. When you click on when you search up the rounds, this is what it's going to say. So you got to make sure these look correct, or people are going to grab the wrong ammo. So we're going to get rid of tracer here, and we're going to replace the narc with AP. And then 12 rounds, it is a 26 round now. So that's 36, sorry. 26 round, 12-07, 12.7 by 40 AP magazine. And just make sure all of these match as well. And make sure there's no tracers. Boom.
I forgot a tracer.
Yep. I missed this here. Where'd I forget the tracer?
Display name short.
Yep, thank you. So that's how you this gun is not full, or this magazine is not fully coded. That's all it is. Simple, easy. Again, this isn't really where you do the most of the coding to get the damage right or anything right. This is more of like, this is how the magazine is structured. Simple, easy. One more variable that you'll see sometimes is something called a count. And all this does is it overrides how many bullets are in the magazine. So right now, there's 26 rounds in the magazine because I pulled straight from the tracer one, or straight from this. So if I wanted, instead of 26 rounds, say I wanted there to be an even 30, this is how you would do it. So you would do that line of code right there. Now there's 30 bullets in the mag. It still says 26 here. It still says 26 here. Everybody will think it's 26, but it is actually 30. So when you do make changes like this, where you're going to change the amount of bullets in a magazine, make sure all of the other things get reflected in that change, so people don't get confused. So we're going to get rid of this. One thing I want to show you is in these 26 round mags, there are actually their own specific models, like big stick models and big stick wire models, stuff like that. So you wouldn't be using the same model. You can always change these in case you don't like the way the model looks or the model's broken, but I would be careful when doing that because it might also just straight up break the gun, as happened to me before. So we're going to also add a 40 round drum mag. Again, this is the literal same process. It's just with the number 40 instead of 26. So I'm actually just going to straight up copy all of this, put it down here, get rid of this extra call here. So one thing I will say, if you have duplicates of this, it will throw up an error. It will give you an error saying, hey, why are you calling this again? I'm not going to run it because you're calling it again. So be careful that you don't have duplicates of the same class getting called, because then it breaks. You can have multiple classes here, but if you have multiple classes getting straight up called like this, that's where it becomes an issue, and it starts throwing up errors. So be careful with that. We are going to quickly add this 40 round drum mag, tracer, scope, arsenal, ammo. And instead of all of these 26s, we're going to put a 40. I guess it was only that. Oh, right here. Perfect. That is also something that you can get caught up on. If you forget, if you copy and paste like me, and you forget to change this class name, it will also throw up an error because you have two of the exact same named classes. So just be careful. Again, these are called syntax errors. They won't even let you run the game. It'll just crash straight out of the game. I'll add a syntax error to show you what it looks like. But these are normally the easiest to fix because they also give you a specific line of where the syntax error is, so you can go and fix it. So it's very, very easy to fix. You just kind of got to know what you're looking for.
On the topic of syntax errors, it's also very, very important for any variable line you put to put a semicolon.
Yes, so semicolons. Semicolons are how you tell the code, this is where it ends. So without this semicolon being here, this code or this specific class will think, oh, the DLC isn't just 105th, it's also author and then in quotations S4 logistics. So it would actually, instead of seeing it like how we see it, it would see it like this. And it'll think this is all one line. This is the DLC is this right here. So this is how we get, this is why we add the semicolons so that it knows where it ends.
Yeah, otherwise it doesn't know what to do with it, and it goes, wait, the fuck, you're defining a variable within a variable?
Mm-hmm. Which it does not like.
Yeah.
So that's kind of why we add the semicolons, or that is why we add the semicolons at the end. So this is the big stick done. Drum mags are all done.
Because you will, if you're getting into programming, you will forget that, and it will drive you insane for like an hour.
Yeah, it's happened to me multiple times. Yeah, and it sucks because sometimes if the syntax error is like bad enough, it won't even tell you where it is. It'll say like line 880 or something like that, which is just nothing. It's something you hadn't even changed. And majority of the time, the reason why it does that is because you forgot to close your class. So these two little brackets tells the class where it is. So pretty much what this, I'll break it down for you. We called this class. We made a copy of this class right here and called it 105th 28 round stick. Everything that was in this beginning class right here is added into 105th 28 round stick plus all of this. And then it ends here. This is where it's going to stop, assuming that everything is 28 round stick. And then rinse and repeat all the way down. Say if you forget this semicolon right here, it's going to think that this is all still in the class 105th 28 round stick. And it's going to break. And it's going to keep going until it gets to the end of the brackets, because that's something you can do. You can have nested classes. For instance, if we go to vehicles, config, let's go to Pelican turrets. You have plenty of nested classes. Nested class. Nested class. So this is something that gets used a lot when doing it because these nested classes are really helpful. But if it messes up, it kind of breaks things and it makes it really hard to figure out where the error actually is. Because it'll just put the error at the very end of the class because it realizes, hey, we never stopped reading this class. Where does it end? So it just puts it right at the end. Again, I'll make a syntax error so I can show you what it kind of looks like in when it pops it up. So we don't need to do ammo, but I'm going to show you how to code in a bullet really quickly, just so you kind of understand. There's a lot more variables when coding in a bullet, but it's pretty simple. So we're going to get rid of this op-tray ball because it's up here. And once you call it in a single time in this entire ammo HPP, you don't need to call it in again. It's already read it. It's stored all the information it needs. You don't need to call it again. So instead of calling...
As a matter of fact, you shouldn't because it's
it'll
extra
give an error.
resources because it will actually go to look for that bullet again.
Yeah.
Which
So,
on one gun isn't a big deal, but when you have every gun doing it, then it starts to slow things down.
Yeah, exactly. And specifically sometimes it might toss up an error, depending on if a whole bunch of different factors. So we're going to name this bullet AP2. Again, I'm not actually going to code this. I'm just showing you kind of how coding a bullet goes. So AP2 has all of the code from AP, and which is just caliber 3, but it also has all of the code from op-tray ball because the first AP also has all the code from op-tray ball. So this AP2 has all the code from these two classes combined. And all we're going to do is do just hit 4,000 caliber equals, where's the equal sign? 750. That's all you really need, frankly. I'm not going to mess with the typical speed. But the three biggest variables that you're going to use in the ammo portion are hit, caliber, and typical speed. Afterwards, if you want to get into tracer stuff, you can learn how to do tracer stuff. If you want to get into like narc stuff, you can learn about dosages. This is all ARMA's a really old game. If you just look up how to code a dosage, ARMA 3, it'll give you 4 full pages of wiki on how to do it, and the wikis are really easy to understand. That's how I got that's how I understand most of my stuff, is just going through the wiki. It is all there, all made by Bohemia themselves. So, for instance, this AP2 bullet is going to have 750 times the normal penetration of a 7.62 round and do 4,000 damage. I'm actually going to do that because I'm going to revert it. So say you messed up and you broke this and you don't know how to fix it. Well, that's where you come to this commit part right here. We'll be back here soon. You right-click on this ammo HPP, and you see this rollback button. You just go ahead and click it, and it'll highlight all the stuff that you would need to roll back. You click rollback, and boom. All of that code we just did got deleted. It just rolls it back to the most recent mod version of the code. That's how you kind of backtrack. If you break something, you can't figure it out. That's how you backtrack to get it to a stable version so you can build off of it. So now that we're kind of towards the end, we have 2 mags that we've built, all inheriting from the parent classes of 40-round drum tracer and 26-round mag tracer. But the carbine doesn't understand that these are mags that should go in. If we were to push it right now, it would work. It wouldn't, but I haven't showed you the last part. But even if it did work, you wouldn't be able to put any mags in it because you haven't told it what mags it can physically use. So this is how we define the mags. And the mags don't always have to match up. If you want to add an SRS mag to this, you can add an SRS mag. It'll look goofy. You'll have a big-ass SRS mag in the mag well of the PDW, but it'll shoot the bullets. It'll do all the core functions of being able to reload it, being able to shoot it, having all the correct data when shooting it to make sure it does the right damage. It just wouldn't look right because it's not built for it. So in order to add magazines, all you do is you put a quotation and you put the class name. So this 105th 26 round stick, you just put it in between the quotations. If you're adding more than one mag, you always have to add a comma because that signifies that there's going to be more. There's going to be another mag, keep reading. And then quotations again, here. So those are the two mags we're going to use for the M60. Simple, easy, nothing too much. You have a 26 round, you have a 40 round. There is something called a magazine well, which as you can see here is a really short line of code that you put at the end of all of our guns. What this does is it's kind of a cheat to make sure no other rounds or no other magazines other than the mags here get put into this, that can be put into this gun. Because if you have a magazine well, if you don't put this, every other mag that can be equipped with the M60, you can put on in the arsenal. So this is how we stop you from using a whole bunch of like op tray rounds and stuff like that that aren't coded to our liking. Is we just add this short line of code that bans every other round or every other magazine other than these two right here, or however many you're coding. So this gun is done. We haven't changed any int speed, we haven't done balancing, but it is a usable gun for the most part. The last part is this config.ccp file. So to find this, you go to the 105th weapons, and instead of it being in this weapons folder, it's actually right here in this config folder. So at the very beginning, when I showed you how to convert .bin files into .ccp files to read them, this is what this folder is. This is the 105th version of a .bin file. We just don't convert it to .bin. So this specifies every single weapon in the unit that is a 105th weapon. It specifies all the different mags, or majority of the different mags, and a good portion of the extra ammo that we use. So this is why when people are saying, oh, there's a problem with the whitelist, this is the whitelist. Unless something is specifically banned in admin, this is the whitelist. Everything that is in here is whitelisted. Everything else, you're not allowed to use because of rules. So when people say, oh, it's the whitelist issue, majority of the time it's not. Majority of the time it's an issue with the mods, unless somebody specifically banned it in admin. So these include files are how this config file knows, oh, I should look in this rifle file and take all the code out of this rifle file. I should look in this battle rifle file, take all the code out of this battle rifle file, and then goes all the way down. That's how it works. When you're adding a new weapon, make sure to always add it as a config weapon, because without it, it won't show up in the arsenal correctly. So right here in the carbine, all you do is you just quote PDW and always add the little comma at the end to signify, oh, there's more stuff afterwards. Keep looking. So that's it.
Why would that not be included in the includes? So if you already have carbines in your includes, why?
So this is the code.
Why do you need to specify it again?
This is the code. This is the whitelist.
Okay.
So this is saying, hey, he's allowed to go into an arsenal and grab the gun. That's here. And this is saying, hey, this is the code for the gun.
So why? I guess then follow-up question: why are not all of the magazines included in the whitelist?
Because halfway into coding all the magazines, ARMA updated the way that they had these .ccp files read from my knowledge, so that you didn't actually need to specify the magazines or the ammo anymore, which is why there's so little ammo and so little magazines. But for some fucking reason, you still need to specify every weapon.
So you need to specify guns. It pulls the magazine information from the guns.
From the guns. Exactly. Yep. Pulls all the magazine and all of the ammo from the gun. So these are pretty much irrelevant, but we keep them here for redundancy.
So why don't we comment those out?
We can, but it can also break sometimes. Hello, Harrison. Okay. So it's there for redundancy. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Okay, so I'm going to cause a purposeful syntax error. Hopefully, I don't have any syntax errors after the fact, or else that would be really embarrassing. So I got rid of this semicolon here. Wait. Oh, there is a syntax error. I spotted one. Let me make sure I didn't do that anywhere else.
Yeah, there's also in the base there's a syntax error.
Where?
It's under magazines. No. It's under ammo. There's a misspelling of typical. Is typical.
Oh, so when that happens, that actually doesn't matter. So syntax errors are primarily with classes and calling classes. The misspelling of typical,
it won't break it, but
it won't break it, but it's not going to work correctly. But that's not that big of it's not that big of a deal.
That might be something you want to be aware of.
Yeah, but we already override it majority of the time, so it's not that big of a deal to kind of fix it. So regardless, there is one specific syntax error that I saw that I'm going to let it run through. I totally forgot this part. To get your code from here to... Wow, I don't have it open. So first of all, to prepare, you finish coding everything. You're getting ready to test it. You're getting ready to put it in the mod pack to see if it works. You don't need to push it and get it updated to everybody server-wide to test it. What you do is you find the utility pack, specifically for weapons, and you open the folder in Windows Explorer. That'll bring you to here. This is very similar to the very beginning, where we figured out how to get all of the code without using advanced developer tools. So you go to add-ons, open up the utility pack, go to add-ons. Here's all of our PBOs. This is where PBO Manager really comes in. You right-click on the 105th weapons here. Open in Explorer.
Vehicles.
That's vehicles, yeah. You're right. It brings you to the same folder. 105th weapons, same folder. Folder right here. You go ahead, right-click on it, PBO Manager, pack into 105th PBO. Now,
There
this
is also if you don't want to use that.
there's pack
there's
ones.
also a batch pack 1, and then you just type the name of the folder. And it
I
will
can't
pack it.
spell, so I never use it. But the difference is
saying that it is there.
yeah, it is here. So this is what it looks like. You just type the folder you want to pack in, and you just type in 105th _ So build failed.
Yeah, it's giving you shit because you already have a folder. Or
Yeah.
You already have a PBO at that.
Yeah. So it'll just do this. There is, if you're comfortable with it, do it this way, because it actually binarizes all the data, saving space. I don't do it this way because Sullivan cleans up after me anyways and rewrites all of my misspellings and binarizes all my folders for me, so I don't bother. It's kind of the agreement we have between each other. I don't mess with his armor. He fixes my spelling mistakes. Pretty simple. So as you can see, my screen is an absolute mess because of all this stuff I have open, but I'm gotten kind of used to it. So this is back.
That's just programming. You're gonna have a fucking
Yeah.
ton of windows open.
Yeah, you're going to have so many windows open. So this is back to the beginning part where we, not the beginning, but this is back in our specific 105th utility pack. So this is all the add-ons that we have. So go ahead and you just drag it over. You just paste it over however you want to do. And you replace the file in the destination. So that, all that pretty much did is add all the code that we just did to your set of mod folders. It didn't push it to everybody else. It is specifically only your set of mod folders that got updated. So I'm going to play the game.
Also, be very, very aware. You have just altered the files of your mod. If you try to connect this to the server with altered files, it will boot you, and it won't tell you why.
Actually,
So, when you're done, repair your mod.
it depends actually, because I use the server to test a lot of stuff. It won't boot you if you don't change major things. If you do like lines of code like I just did, you'll be able to join the server and actually equip the weapon that you want to equip, but nobody else will see it because nobody else has the updated version of the mod pack. Which is
Gotcha.
how I get whenever I mess with coding.
I've just,
Go ahead.
when I do the music pack, it gets really mad at me when I forget to fix the.
Yeah, because you're adding whole things. I'm just tweaking a little bit of code. For instance, when I recently messed with the bayonet code a little bit, I sent it out to some of my aviators who like the bayonet more than I do to test it. I just sent them the PBO, and they got it. They put it on their mod pack. They used it. In the server, they said, hey, needs a little adjusting here, needs a little adjusting there. I kept letting them test it. Boom. So here's a syntax error. This is what it looks like. On config weapons, carbines at HPP, on line 88, this is line 88, they saw a bracket instead of what they should have saw of an equal sign. So let's go to carbine, file 88, right here. They saw a bracket instead of an equal sign. So where is that? Let's see if we can find it. Well, here it is. Instead of having a what is this called?
Semicolon?
A semicolon. Well, I thought the semicolon was the two dots.
No, that's colon.
Okay, so
Oh.
instead of having the semicolon, I should have had a normal colon here. That is what tossed up the error. So just that little change right there, having a semicolon instead of a colon, broke my game and didn't allow it to start. That's all it takes to break your game. That's a syntax error. It won't allow it to start because of one singular character. So make sure that you kind of double check your code, and then if it does give you a syntax error like this, you go over and check it again to figure out what went wrong.
Also, very worth doing is commenting the things, like if you're testing things, commenting the things that you're working on.
Yeah. So again,
Like
we're gonna go
in initial G, you mean, right?
IntelliJ. Yeah.
IntelliJ was.
Yes. Yeah. So when you got this like program thing open, it's so you can see it has like the marker to show like what code has been changed.
Mhm.
But I also make a habit of like commenting what I'm doing.
Yeah. So to comment,
temporarily,
you just // and then you can write whatever you want in here, and it's not going to see this as code. This is not code to it. This is just gobbledygook. It doesn't know what this is, so it's going to not even read it. So you can
But
put
it's a very
whatever
easy
you
way
want.
to quickly like identify like, okay, so this is what I've done here.
Yeah.
And it's also a quick way to like for your eye to catch like, oh, that's commented a commented out section. Nobody
So-
in the 105th fucking uses comments, so
Yeah,
you know,
it's
fine.
I hate it because what you can also do is do / and then star, and that'll comment everything out until you do //.
//
So instead of having to
It
comment
has-
out every single line, you can do this to comment out a bunch of lines at a time. Because the
Yeah,
/
that's good for large sections of,
Yeah.
of like so if you have to like explain what exactly your code is doing and you don't trust the next person to be able to like understand it or have the time to figure it out, which you should always assume that if your code is more complicated than one or two lines, that the next person is not going to understand what's happening. You can give it like a quick explanation. This is what I'm doing here. This is how this works.
Yeah.
And then
That
that
is-
should help the next person to look at it and figure out what's happening.
That's just good
That's what
coding
it's for.
practices in general. Yeah.
But it can also be used. You're not supposed to use it for this, but everyone does. That you can use that to comment out code. If you like
If
temporarily
it breaks,
don't-
if it breaks,
Yeah,
you use it to comment out code. That's what you do. That's what I do. Because, for instance, when I was going through this earlier in the day to make sure everything looked right, I coded a few practice versions of this gun. For some reason, the BR-55 V2's grenade launcher broke. And instead of taking the time to fix it, I just commented it all out. Because there's nothing, it can't break if it doesn't exist. That's the basic, like, the nut or the bolt can't be stuck if it's liquid. That's the basic idea.
So is this the equivalent of like shoving fucking garbage under the rug? Like just like, oh yeah, no, we don't look
pretty
at that right
much.
now.
We don't look at it. It doesn't.
It's not
It's
clean.
yeah.
It's definitely something you should go back and fix. But if you're troubleshooting and you're just trying to figure out which one of my methods is breaking right now, it's a very easy way to just go
Fix
method
it,
by method, comment out the whole thing. Does it run now? Radical. That's what was wrong.
And then you can go back and fix the second thing that was breaking, or you could forget about it because it took so long to fix it, and then get yelled about it in a week when it doesn't work. I've had that happen to me a few times. So, again, we had that syntax error, so that's going to tell me to do, I'm going to have to re-upload the file to my specific mod pack. So I'll show it again, side by side this time. We have the idea projects on one side, which is this here, and then we have my specific version of the mod, of the 105th mod pack on the other. I'll use the pack1.bat. I'll type in 105th underscore weapons. It's going to pack it. Done. Binarizing, which is the important part that it does. So instead of being like 16,000 kilobytes that it was, it's now 13,000, which 3 megabytes? Or is it 1,000? I don't know. 2,000 kilobytes or 3,000 kilobytes doesn't seem like a lot, but when you're dealing with hundreds of folders, thousands of folders, it stacks up really quickly. So you just want to make sure that...
It's 1,000 kilobytes and a megabyte, by the way.
Okay, so 3 megabytes. So even at 3 megabytes doesn't seem a lot comparative to like 105th vehicles, which is a full gigabyte. It still is important because anything we can save makes the mod pack smaller, which in turn means that everybody can boot it up faster. So let's see if
that's
I...
the excuse I give to people why I can't add their songs to the mod pack.
Bro. So let's see if I have another syntax error. Hopefully I didn't. Hopefully I don't, because I recently did it like 2 hours ago and it didn't have a syntax error. So I'm praying there's no syntax error. But sometimes that just happens. So let's see. And like I said in the beginning, this is kind of like the most time-intensive part, is sitting here waiting for ARMA to open, waiting for it to throw up a syntax, praying that it doesn't. I've probably sat here for like a total of like 4 days across the entire time I've been coding, just waiting for ARMA to open, waiting for it to give me an error, give me something. There's actually a doc that Luke wrote to help people minimize this time. I just haven't looked at it.
Jesus.
It's not real.
Yeah, it's not real. See, this is where I would go to get a bite to eat or grab some water or go to the bathroom really quickly. This is the time.
This is when I pull whatever YouTube video I have up and fucking
Take a short ad break.
Yeah, exactly. So right now it says initializing add-ons. If you do have a syntax error, this is where it's going to get thrown up. Is in this initializing add-ons part, because what it's saying is it's reading all of the mods. Sorry, it's texting my brother. So once it gets past this part, which it's seeming like it is, after a while you can kind of right there, initializing mods. So that tells me I don't have a syntax error because it got past reading all the add-ons into actually making them run. Okay, let's see. So here we are into base ARMA once my screen stops being black.
Well, I guess to be fair, you don't have a fatal syntax error.
Yeah. You know, there could be... So that is a good point. There could still be errors with your code, but there's nothing that's going to break it. There's nothing that's going to say, hey, I can't even run it. Sometimes, like for instance, that base weapon, I'll show you actually. Why am I saying that? This if this is wrong, it won't throw up a syntax error because you still have something here. It's just wrong. And instead of it throwing up a syntax error, you just won't be able to find it in the arsenal. It just won't be there. So to test it, you would go to Tutorials, Ace Arsenal. Same place you went to go get the code via Advanced Developer Tools, go right to Ace Arsenal. Okay, and waiting for it to load still. Always loading. Whoa. So, here we are. And M60 PDW right here. So this is this is our gun that we coded, as you can see by the M60 PDW. It has all of these attachments. And the reason why it has all of these attachments is because I didn't specify. So you see this stuff. You see weapon slot info, and then muzzle slot, cow slot, pointer slot. This is where you specify what attachments you have. And there's actually, in the 105th weapons, there's a master list of every bipod, every scope, every muzzle, every laser or flashlight that we can use. That
Question.
is on there. What's up?
Why are sites referred to as cows?
I don't know. I have no idea. I
Question.
also was really confused about why they were referred to as cows, but I just ignored it.
No.
Like
Is
a
that just
professional.
like ARMA thing, or is that a unit thing?
That's
It's an ARMA thing because
It's an ARMA thing. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's actual like code. It's a variable that ARMA's reading.
Yeah, it's probably something to do with some ARMA developers' inside joke.
I fucking hate
Something
video game
optic.
developers. As somebody with a video game development degree, I fucking hate developers.
Yeah. That's kind of how it works. And as you can see, every single one pretty much has their own small list of sites, which is why we're so limited on sites, is because every gun has this small list of sites. If it's not here, you can't use it. That's pretty much how it works. Well, anyways, here's the gun we coded in all of its effects. You have all these different scopes, and you have the two different magazines we used. We coded. We have the 26-round stick. We have the 40-round drum. That is how
Oh,
you.
I didn't know we had a drum.
Yeah.
Model. That's
Yeah.
pretty nice.
That is how you code a weapon.
The
It's
nutsack.
yes. So that's how you code a weapon, and you can do that for literally anything here in the arsenal. Anything in the arsenal, if you do what I showed you, it'll work. You can get the class name by just hovering over. You can get the class name by going through ARMA 3 Advanced Developer Tools. You can get the class name by going into the PBO Manager and physically looking for the code. For instance, say you want the railgun. You want to add this to the game? Right there, Optroy FC Railgun. That's the code. That's the class name, and then you just put that, and you just copy what I did here, with the instead of it being the carbine, it's the railgun. Railgun's in the 105th mod pack. You want the Spartan laser in the mod pack? Go to launchers. Oh,
It has its technical
still
name. I'm pretty sure.
Right. You want this in the mod pack? Easy. You just hover over it. Oh, it's called the Optray M6GGNR. That's a really weird name. You just
Gungnir.
yeah.
I
The
thought you
gun.
were gonna try to
Remember,
shorten.
because all the Spartan stuff is named after fucking Norse mythology,
That's funny.
which is
so
weird that they're called Spartans.
so so if you want to add the Spartan laser, you just put the class name there. It's in the 105th mod pack after you do all this stuff. Simple. Every gun
They
works.
just revert that change.
What you ask? Wait, what you ask?
The Spartan laser don't revert that change.
No.
You must have it.
No. I already got the doc. C-Staff already denied it. So
What about
that.
what about the railgun? We want to work that one in.
No.
That actually would be sick.
It would be
Like
sick,
maybe
but-
on very, very specific missions, but no, not normally.
So that's how you add weapons into the mod pack. once again, I will say before you add a weapon into the mod pack, please check in with S4 or C staff or me, or else you're gonna get yelled at, and I'm gonna destroy your gun in front of you. Basic idea. To push, I'm not actually gonna push this because I don't want this in our mod pack. You click this little 3-line dot right here. This actually 4 lines. The hamburger. Go all the way to get, and you'll see a commit. So if you click on commit, you can add a message here. So how our messages work is you put whatever guns, whatever you added in this commit message, so it's easy to see down here. For instance, +, marksman NVG, no thermal. Again, I spelled it wrong. That's for Sullivan. If you add something, it's a plus mark. If you take something away, it's a minus sign. If you change something, it's the tilde sign. You just add it here, and then you do commit and push. So commit updates it to your version of idea. So kind of like how we updated our version of the mod pack, commit updates our version of idea, and then push updates everybody's version of idea and everybody's mod pack once the mod pack gets updated. So that's how you do it. Again, in case you ever fuck up so badly you need to reset, you just right click in the commit screen over here. You right click on changes and you click on rollback. And specifically this time I want to roll back everything. I just click rollback and everything is back to the way it was. So that's how you code a weapon. Does anybody have any questions that they weren't able to ask during the time that I was speaking?
Once I'm going over my notes to see the same thing I could ask.
No worries. This is going exactly like how the last time it went. And then people were confused because they didn't ask questions.
Kale's good. I've got a pretty good understanding of it.
You got it?
No, I just needed to be pointed in the right direction. Once I knew what I was looking for, I was good to go.
Perfect.
I honestly learn a lot better by doing. So if you're recording this and are able to like send it.
Well, yeah, I'm gonna put it in training videos. There's an S4 section for a bunch of training videos.
Okay.
I think I'll put it there.
Yeah, then I think that'll help.
Yeah, and again, I'm a no life. I steal checks from the government, so I'm always at my computer.
Right.
If you ever need anything from me, I'm here to help out wherever I can. Just at me and I'll be there. Like Superman. Zeke, I know you're probably very confused. Did you have any questions?
None that I wouldn't be able to figure out myself.
Okay, cool. That's okay.
I was going to ask, like, I mean, all this pertains to, like, weapons, but I was going to specifically ask, what was the issue with the 77 that, like, you couldn't actually push any updates on it?
That's good. I can actually show you. So the issue...
That's low-key kind of why I'm like, what the fuck happened? Why can't we do it?
So, yeah, I'll show you. Let me get to the 77. So this is one of the vehicles. Same premise to navigate around. You just kind of open up these drop-downs, figure out what you're looking for. So the new Pelican is a 77. Turrets is the turret that you want. So if you go to... Actually, let's open up the new Pelican folder. Some black. This is the D77. Vehicles are a little bit different. I will say this. If anybody doesn't want to be here for vehicles, you are good to go. I'm not going to force you to listen to this if you don't really care about coding vehicles, but this is a vehicles portion that I'm going to go really lightly into.
Okay,
coding...
Kale, leave.
Bye.
Thank you for the training. I appreciate it.
Nope, no worries.
Y'all have a good night. It's bedtime.
All right, see you.
Take care, guys. Apologies for keeping you up numbers.
Night.
No worries. It's 9 o'clock for me, dude. It's not that late. So here we go. For some reason, the pylons are just fine. The pylons work. Actually, I'm gonna end the recording. Yeah.
Bye,
This is
YouTube.
important.